The cameras had barely started rolling when chaos erupted on set. What was supposed to be another high-tension love and hip-hop taping quickly turned into something nobody in the room or watching at home could have predicted. One moment, Kirk Frost was seated calmly under the lights, smirking as if he had everything under control. The next, security was rushing in, producers were shouting, and cast members were left stunned as the words "You're under arrest" sliced through the air like a blade. Fans who were in the studio audience later described the scene as unreal and like watching a movie play out live. Nobody could believe what they were seeing, yet nobody could look away. According to eyewitness accounts, the entire atmosphere shifted the second uniformed officers walked onto the stage. Rashida's jaw dropped, her voice cracking as she demanded, "What is going on? Why are they here?" Jasmine, Washington, seated a few feet away, clutched the arm of her chair. Whispering to someone off camera, "I knew this day was coming." The audience gasped in unison when Kirk stood up and tried to argue, his hands raised, his voice echoing, "This is crazy. Y'all can't do this here." But security had already surrounded him, and the cast scattered as if the set itself had turned dangerous. What made the moment even more shocking was the timing. This wasn't happening in private, behind closed doors, or after filming wrapped. This was live, raw, and in front of cameras, with every second being captured for the world to see. Producers scrambled to control the narrative, crew members shouted for order, and castmates looked on in disbelief, some covering their faces, others shouting for answers. Fans at home would soon flood social media with clips, memes, and wild theories. Was this all part of the storyline, or had reality just collided with the show in the most dramatic way possible? One thing became clear that night. Whatever secrets Kirk had been hiding, they were no longer safe. The truth had marched onto set in handcuffs, and the fallout was about to shake every corner of his world. The set had never seen that kind of frenzy before, and the audience could feel it in the air. Kirk's voice echoed as he struggled against the spotlight, the cameras refusing to turn away. He kept saying over and over again, "This is a mistake. Y'all don't understand. I didn't do anything." But the officers were unrelenting, their hands firm as they moved in closer. Rashida clutched her chest, pacing back and forth, whispering to no one in particular, "Not like this, not in front of everybody. Lord, please no." The producers kept shouting instructions, but it was impossible to restore order. Every cast member's face told a different story: shock, confusion, fear, even a flicker of satisfaction in the eyes of some who had long been waiting for Kirk's past to catch up with him. The moment was raw, like a wound torn open on stage, and no amount of spin could cover it. Security tried to move the audience out quietly, but the gasps, screams, and whispers filled the room. Some pulled out phones to record, others just stared in disbelief. Jasmine leaned forward in her seat, her eyes locked on Kirk as if this was confirmation of everything she had been hinting at for months. Her lips trembled, and under her breath, she muttered, "He thought he was untouchable." Young Jock, wide-eyed and restless, turned toward the cameras with both hands raised, his voice cracking as he said, "Y'all seeing this? This man getting locked up on set. This is history right here." The tension spilled into every corner, like electricity buzzing through wires ready to snap. The officers finally grabbed Kirk's wrist, and in that moment, Rashida rushed forward, shoving past producers and shouting, "Wait, you don't understand. He didn't do nothing wrong." Her voice echoed in the chaos, her tears glistening under the studio lights. One officer warned her to step back, but her emotions refused to let go. "That's my husband. You hear me? My husband. You don't get to just walk in here and drag him away like he's some criminal for your show." Her words rang out, a desperate plea for control. But the cameras caught every second, immortalizing her heartbreak for the world. The longer it went on, the deeper the confusion became. No one in the cast seemed to know exactly what Kirk was being accused of, but whispers started to circle. Someone in the back muttered, "It's about the money," while another voice said, "Nah, this about that girl," fueling the fire. The rumors spread like wildfire through the audience before spilling online. Fans already typing furiously on Twitter and Instagram. Within minutes, hashtags like #KirkArrested and #LHHATLChaos were trending, with fans speculating everything from fraud to cheating scandals exploding in real time. The producers wanted to kill the cameras, but they knew this kind of raw chaos was the very heartbeat of reality television. For better or worse, history was unfolding in front of them. Kirk's voice cracked when he looked over his shoulder at Rashida. "Babe, I swear, this ain't what it looks like. They trying to set me up. You know how they do me." His voice was half defiant, half broken, like a man clawing for survival. Rashida sobbed, her hands trembling as she shouted back. Then tell me the truth, Kirk. What did you do? Because I can't keep defending you if you won't be honest with me. The tension between them spilled into the crowd, their marriage collapsing under the pressure of the flashing lights and the law closing in. Even Jasmine shook her head, whispering just loud enough for the microphones to pick up. Same old Kirk. Lies on top of lies. The officers finally managed to snap cold steel cuffs around his wrists, and the sound echoed louder than anything else in the room. Gasps shot through the audience again, and a producer nearly dropped their headset as the weight of the moment hit them. Rashida let out a cry that cut through the noise, covering her face as the tears streamed freely. Yandi rushed over, wrapping an arm around her and whispering, "Stay strong, girl, don't let them see you break." But it was useless. The cameras zoomed in, and fans knew instantly that this clip would live forever online, shared and reshared until the truth no longer mattered. As they dragged Kirk toward the exit, young Jock stepped into the officer's path, his voice rising with anger. "Hold up, y'all not about to humiliate my man like this. This ain't the way." The officers pushed him aside, and Jock stumbled, glaring at the badge before spitting out, "Cowards, man. Y'all can't even wait until after the show." His defiance only fueled the spectacle, and the crowd roared with emotion, some cheering, some booing. Everyone swept into the chaos. The lights, the cameras, the audience, all of it collided in a storm of disbelief, and the set no longer felt like a TV studio. It felt like the scene of a public downfall. Meanwhile, Carly Red had her phone out, whispering under her breath while recording, "I told y'all he was dirty. I told y'all." Her sly smirk was caught on camera, a sharp contrast to Rashida's devastation, and fans would later freeze-frame that moment as proof that Carly had been waiting for this. The whispers of betrayal grew louder, fans wondering if cast members had known more than they let on, if someone had tipped off the authorities, or if this had all been orchestrated for the sake of ratings. The speculation fueled the fire, and before the night was over, conspiracy theories were flying faster than facts. The walk from the stage to the back of the studio felt endless. Every step Kirk took with those cuffs on was met with flashing cameras and the gasps of people who had once been his fans. He shouted once more, desperate and furious, "Y'all ain't got nothing on me. This is a setup." But no one seemed to hear him. The audience was too busy capturing the chaos on their phones, their screens lighting up like a sea of judgment. Rashida was being held back by Yandi and Bambi, both whispering to her to calm down. But she shook them off, screaming Kirk's name as if sheer willpower could stop him from being dragged away. Backstage was no calmer. The crew scrambled to contain the fallout, locking doors, silencing whispers, and trying to manage the chaos spilling across social media. Mona Scott, standing in the middle of it all, looked furious but conflicted. "Cut the cameras," she shouted, though deep down she knew the footage was already gold. She knew the world would see it whether she allowed it or not, and she knew the show would never be the same. This wasn't scripted drama. This wasn't a storyline. They were witnessing a scandal unfold in real time, and the damage was irreversible. Cast members huddled together, some shaking, some whispering, some just staring blankly, as if they couldn't process what they had just seen. In that moment, the set wasn't just shaken, it was shattered. Kirk's reputation, his marriage, his future on the show, all of it hung in the balance. And as the studio doors slammed shut behind him, the world outside was already erupting in chaos, hungry for answers to the question on everyone's mind. What had Kirk done that led to his arrest in front of millions? The set had never seen that kind of frenzy before, and the audience could feel it in the air. Kirk's voice echoed as he struggled against the spotlight, the cameras refusing to turn away. He kept saying over and over again, "This is a mistake. Y'all don't understand. I didn't do anything." But the officers were unrelenting, their hands firm as they moved in closer. Rashida clutched her chest, pacing back and forth, whispering to no one in particular, "Not like this, not in front of everybody. Lord, please no." The producers kept shouting instructions, but it was impossible to restore order. Every cast member's face told a different story: shock, confusion, fear, even a flicker of satisfaction in the eyes of some who had long been waiting for Kirk's past to catch up with him. The moment was raw, like a wound torn open on stage, and no amount of spin could cover it. Security tried to move the audience out quietly, but the gasps, screams, and whispers filled the room. Some pulled out phones to record, others just stared in disbelief. Jasmine leaned forward in her seat, her eyes locked on Kirk as if this was confirmation of everything she had been hinting at for months. Her lips trembled, and under her breath, she muttered, "He thought he was untouchable." Young Jock, wide-eyed and restless, turned toward the cameras with both hands raised. His voice cracking as he said, "Y'all seeing this? This man getting locked up on set. This is history right here." The tension spilled into every corner, like electricity buzzing through wires ready to snap. The officers finally grabbed Kirk's wrist, and in that moment, Rashida rushed forward, shoving past producers and shouting, "Wait, you don't understand. He didn't do nothing wrong." Her voice echoed in the chaos, her tears glistening under the studio lights. One officer warned her to step back, but her emotions refused to let go. "That's my husband. You hear me? My husband. You don't get to just walk in here and drag him away like he's some criminal for your show." Her words rang out, a desperate plea for control. But the cameras caught every second, immortalizing her heartbreak for the world. The longer it went on, the deeper the confusion became. No one in the cast seemed to know exactly what Kirk was being accused of, but whispers started to circle. Someone in the back muttered, "It's about the money," while another voice said, "Nah, this about that girl," fueling the fire. The rumors spread like wildfire through the audience before spilling online. Fans already typing furiously on Twitter and Instagram. Within minutes, hashtags like #KirkArrested and #LHHATLChaos were trending, with fans speculating everything from fraud to cheating scandals exploding in real time. The producers wanted to kill the cameras, but they knew this kind of raw chaos was the very heartbeat of reality television. For better or worse, history was unfolding in front of them. Kirk's voice cracked when he looked over his shoulder at Rashida. "Babe, I swear, this ain't what it looks like. They trying to set me up. You know how they do me." His voice was half defiant, half broken, like a man clawing for survival. Rashida sobbed, her hands trembling as she shouted back, "Then tell me the truth. Kirk, what did you do? Because I can't keep defending you if you won't be honest with me." The tension between them spilled into the crowd, their marriage collapsing under the pressure of the flashing lights and the law closing in. Even Jasmine shook her head, whispering just loud enough for the microphones to pick up, "Same old Kirk. Lies on top of lies." The officers finally managed to snap cold steel cuffs around his wrists, and the sound echoed louder than anything else in the room. Gasps shot through the audience again, and a producer nearly dropped their headset as the weight of the moment hit them. Rashida let out a cry that cut through the noise, covering her face as the tears streamed freely. Yandi rushed over, wrapping an arm around her and whispering, "Stay strong, girl, don't let them see you break." But it was useless. The cameras zoomed in, and fans knew instantly that this clip would live forever, online. Shared and reshared until the truth no longer mattered. As they dragged Kirk toward the exit, young Jock stepped into the officer's path, his voice rising with anger. "Hold up, y'all not about to humiliate my man like this. This ain't the way." The officers pushed him aside, and Jock stumbled, glaring at the badge before spitting out, "Cowards, man. Y'all can't even wait until after the show." His defiance only fueled the spectacle, and the crowd roared with emotionsome cheering, some booing. Everyone swept into the chaos. The lights, the cameras, the audience, all of it collided in a storm of disbelief, and the set no longer felt like a TV studio. It felt like the scene of a public downfall. Meanwhile, Carly Red had her phone out, whispering under her breath while recording, "I told y'all, he was dirty. I told y'all." Her sly smirk was caught on camera, a sharp contrast to Rashida's devastation. And fans would later freeze-frame that moment as proof that Carly had been waiting for this. The whispers of betrayal grew louder, fans wondering if cast members had known more than they let on, if someone had tipped off the authorities, or if this had all been orchestrated for the sake of ratings. The speculation fueled the fire, and before the night was over, conspiracy theories were flying faster than facts. The walk from the stage to the back of the studio felt endless. Every step Kirk took with those cuffs on was met with flashing cameras and the gasps of people who had once been his fans. He shouted once more, desperate and furious, "Y'all ain't got nothing on me. This is a setup." But no one seemed to hear him. The audience was too busy capturing the chaos on their phones, their screens lighting up like a sea of judgment. Rashida was being held back by Yandy and Bambi, both whispering to her to calm down. But she shook them off, screaming Kirk's name as if sheer willpower could stop him from being dragged away. Backstage was no calmer. The crew scrambled to contain the fallout, locking doors, silencing whispers, and trying to manage the chaos spilling across social media. Mona Scott, standing in the middle of it all, looked furious but conflicted. "Cut the cameras," she shouted, though deep down she knew the footage was already gold. She knew the world would see it whether she allowed it or not, and she knew the show would never be the same. This wasn't scripted drama. This wasn't a storyline, they were witnessing a scandal unfold in real time, and the damage was irreversible. Cast members huddled together, some shaking, some whispering, some just staring blankly as if they couldn't process what they had just seen. In that moment, the set wasn't just shaken, it was shattered. Kirk's reputation, his marriage, his future on the show, all of it hung in the balance. And as the studio doors slammed shut behind him, the world outside was already erupting in chaos, hungry for answers to the question on everyone's mind. What had Kirk done that led to his arrest in front of millions? Backstage, the storm only intensified. The faint echo of Kirk's voice faded down the hallway, but the silence he left behind was deafening. Rashida sat slumped in a chair, her face hidden in her hands, trembling as whispers swirled all around her. Bambi crouched beside her, rubbing her shoulder gently, murmuring, "Stay calm, sis, they gon' sort this out." But Rashida jerked away, her voice ragged with disbelief. "No, you don't understand. They don't just walk in and arrest you for nothing. He's been hiding something. I know it." Her words broke the air like glass, and the crew froze, realizing the fractures in their marriage had just been laid bare for everyone to see. Meanwhile, Jock paced in tight circles, his voice raised for anyone who would listen. "This ain't adding up, man." They knew exactly when to come, exactly where to walk in. Somebody in here tipped them off. His eyes scanned the room like a detective in the middle of a case. He stopped, pointing toward Carly, who sat with her legs crossed and phone still in hand. I bet it was you. You've been waiting for Kirk to fall since day one. Don't play." Carly smirked, unfazed by his accusation, and tossed her hair back. "Please, don't put that on me. If he got skeletons, they walked in on their own." The tension between them grew thick. Fans later speculating whether Carly had actually been the one to leak information to the authorities. Yandi stepped into the middle of the room, her voice sharp and commanding. "Y'all need to stop pointing fingers and think about what this means. The cameras caught everything. The world's about to chew Kirk alive, and by tomorrow morning, this show won't just be trending, it'll be a scandal all over the news." Her words cut through the noise, but instead of calming the room, they only ignited more panic. Everyone began talking at once, voices overlapping like a wave of hysteria. Some feared their own secrets would be dragged out next, others feared the show would be shut down, and a few secretly smiled, realizing the ratings would skyrocket beyond anything they had ever seen. Outside, fans who had been forced out of the studio stood clustered in the parking lot, phones glowing in the night as they recorded live reactions. One girl, her voice trembling with excitement, shouted into her phone camera, "Y'all, I just saw Kirk Frost get arrested on stage. Like real handcuffs, real police, everything." Rashida broke down crying. Jasmine looked like she'd been new, and Jock almost threw hands with security. "This ain't no storyline. This real." Her clip went viral within minutes, spreading across TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter like wildfire. Every post carried a different rumor: fraud, cheating, secret kids, stolen money. Fans argued online, demanding the truth, while others gleefully declared Kirk's downfall long overdue. Back in the dressing room, Jasmine stood in front of the mirror, her expression a cocktail of satisfaction and dread. She whispered to her reflection, "He can't talk his way out of this one." Rashida heard her and snapped, her voice shaking with fury. "You think this is funny? You think my family falling apart is some kind of joke to you?" Jasmine turned, her eyes glinting. "No, but let's not pretend like this is new. Kirk been living foul for years. All I did was survive it." The words hung heavy in the air, Rashida lunging forward as security jumped in between them. The two women screamed over each other, their voices raw and jagged, every syllable feeding the chaos that was already spiraling beyond control. Mona stormed into the room, her face flushed with anger, her hand slicing through the air. "Enough. Do you hear me? Enough? We just witnessed a man dragged out in cuffs, and all y'all can think about is tearing each other apart. Pull yourselves together before this whole damn franchise burns to the ground." Her voice silenced the room, but only for a moment. The whispers returned, faint but cutting, each one carrying a new rumor, a new betrayal, a new fracture in the already fragile world of love and hip-hop. Meanwhile, outside the studio, flashing cameras and reporters were already gathering. The story had leaked so quickly that news vans pulled up before Kirk even made it to the squad car. Questions were shouted, microphones shoved forward, and fans pressed against barricades, desperate for a closer look. "Kirk, what are the charges?" "Rashida, do you have a comment? Is this connected to Jasmine's baby?" The chaos spilled into the streets. The arrest no longer just a shocking scene on a set but now a public spectacle devouring everything in its path. Inside, Rashida finally stood, her voice hoarse but steady. "If he thinks I'm gonna sit at home while the world drags my name with his, he's wrong. If he won't give me answers, I'll find them myself." The cast watched her march out, her heels striking the floor with defiance. As if this was the beginning of a war she had no choice but to fight. Jock shook his head, muttering, "Man, this family ain't never gonna recover from this." And for the first time, nobody argued. They all knew he was right. The hallway outside the studio was chaos. A tunnel of flashing lights and echoing shouts as Rashida stormed through, with her eyes blazing. Her face was streaked with tears, but there was fire in her steps. A fury that no producer, no friend, not even the weight of heartbreak could slow down. Security tried to guide her to a waiting car, but she shoved past them, screaming at the crowd of reporters gathered outside. "Y'all don't know nothing. Don't you dare spin my family like this." Cameras swarmed, microphones pressed toward her face. And every word she shouted was captured, raw and unfiltered, ready to be dissected across social media. Fans watching the live stream would later say they had never seen Rashida so undone, so unguarded, like a queen suddenly stripped of her crown. Just a few feet away, Kirk was being shoved into a squad car, his wrists still cuffed, his head ducked low to avoid the cameras. His voice, however, refused to be silenced. "I ain't guilty. They setting me up? This whole thing fake." His shouts were muffled by the slamming of the car door, but the cameras caught every syllable. The image of Kirk Frost, a man who had spent years branding himself as unshakable, now slouched in the back of a police car, would become the single most shared photo of the night. Fans plastered it on memes, blogs, gossip pages, and even mainstream news, debating endlessly what crime could have forced such a public arrest. Back inside, the cast huddled together like survivors of a disaster. The dressing rooms buzzed with energy, every voice filled with disbelief. Yandi paced with her phone glued to her ear, whispering to someone on the other end. "No, it wasn't staged. Girl, the police were real. They had warrants. I don't know what for, but it's real." Jock slammed his fist against the wall, muttering, "They out here trying to bury Kirk alive. Man, this ain't right. Somebody playing dirty." Carly, perched on a makeup chair, smirked into her camera as she went live on Instagram, saying, "When you play games in the dark, don't be shocked when the lights come on." The comments flew in instantly, fans accusing her of being messy, others cheering her on, and some insisting she had the inside scoop. Meanwhile, Jasmine sat silently in the corner, her hands shaking. Though she had looked smug earlier, the reality of Kirk being in handcuffs began to settle over her like a storm cloud. She whispered to herself, "If they dig deep, my name gone come up too." Bambi caught her words and whipped her head around, eyes wide. "Wait, what do you mean by that? You know something we don't." Jasmine froze, eyes darting around the room as if searching for an escape. "I didn't say nothing. Don't twist my words." But the suspicion was already there, heavy in the air, infecting every glance thrown her way. Outside, Mona Scott stood on the curb, her phone buzzing nonstop with calls from executives and network heads. Her voice was sharp as she barked into the receiver. "No, we didn't plan this. Yes, the footage is real. Do you think I'd risk the whole show on some fake arrest?" Her jaw clenched, her eyes narrowed at the sight of Kirk's squad car disappearing down the street. "This is bigger than TV now. If we don't control the narrative, the show's finished." For once, even Mona's unshakable confidence cracked under the weight of the scandal. Hours later, the news cycle exploded. Headlines blared. Kirk Frost arrested during live taping. Chaos erupts on Love and Hip Hop set, and Rashida breaks down as husband taken in handcuffs. Talk shows dissected the footage, celebrity blogs speculated endlessly, and fans flooded timelines with theories. Some swore it had to be fraud, linking it to rumors about Kirk's business ventures. Others claimed it was connected to Jasmine and whispered about secret paternity issues resurfacing. A few even insisted it was all Mona's master plan for ratings, refusing to believe reality could be this messy. By midnight, Rashida was back home, slamming doors and pacing her kitchen while her mother tried to calm her down. "Baby, you gotta breathe," her mother pleaded, but Rashida was inconsolable, her voice breaking as she shouted, "Breathe? How can I breathe when my husband is sitting in a cell and I don't even know why? He lied to me again. He swore he had nothing to hide." Her mother sighed, shaking her head with a look that said she had seen this coming all along. "Sometimes, child, the truth has a way of walking in even when you slam the door." In the holding cell across town, Kirk sat with his head in his hands, rocking back and forth as the murmurs of other detainees echoed around him. "This ain't supposed to happen," he whispered. He replayed the scene in his mind, the lights, the gasps. Rashida's cries and felt the weight of years of secrets pressing down on him. A guard walked past, chuckling, "Ain't you that TV guy? Guess the cameras finally caught you for real." Kirk looked up, his eyes red, his voice trembling as he muttered, "They don't know the half of it." Back on social media, fans dissected every detail like detectives solving a crime. Screen grabs of Rashida's tears circulated with captions like "Queen deserves better." Clips of Jock shouting at the officers turned into rallying cries, memes dubbing him the realest one on set. Carly's live feed was replayed over and over, with viewers claiming she looked too happy about Kirk's downfall. And Jasmine's silent stare. Fans called it the look of a woman who knows the tea. Hashtags like #FreeKirk, #RASHEEDA deserves better, and #LHHATL scandal trended worldwide, cementing the moment as one of the most shocking in reality TV history. As dawn broke, the city was buzzing, and everyone, fans, cast, producers, and even outsiders, knew one thing for certain. This wasn't just a scandal for the cameras. This was real life bleeding into the show, and the fallout was only just beginning. The night after Kirk's arrest was unlike anything Atlanta had ever seen. The streets buzzed with the kind of rumor that doesn't just belong to gossip blogs, it spilled into barbershops, nail salons, newsstands, and radio talk shows before sunrise. Every television screen replayed the footage on loop. The image of Kirk Frost being shoved into the back of a squad car becoming as iconic as it was humiliating. Social media turned it into a festival of shock. Some fans posted crying emojis, devastated for Rashida, while others turned Kirk into the butt of endless jokes, plastering his mugshot alongside memes about karma and lies finally catching up. Even celebrities outside the love and hip-hop universe couldn't resist chiming in, with rappers, influencers, and athletes adding fuel to the fire with cryptic tweets. One post simply read, "That's what happens when you play both sides," and within minutes, fans flooded the comments tagging Kirk's name, convinced it was shade directed at him. At Rashida's house, the mood was darker than ever. She sat at the dining table, her phone buzzing every few seconds with calls and messages she refused to answer. Her mother stood nearby, arms folded, watching her daughter unravel. "Baby girl," she said softly, "you can't let the world see you break. You hold your head high, no matter what." But Rashida slammed her hand on the table, startling even herself. "Mama, how many times I gotta hold my head high while he drags me through the mud? How many times I gotta sit in front of cameras defending a man who won't even tell me the truth?" Her voice cracked, tears spilling down her face, but the anger underneath was undeniable. For years she had been the steady one, the calm in the storm, but now the storm had finally broken her walls down. Meanwhile, in a cold cell across town, Kirk leaned against the wall with his head in his hands. The fluorescent lights above him buzzed like a cruel reminder that his life had shifted overnight. He replayed the arrest in his head again and again, the sound of the cuffs snapping shut, the look on Rashida's face, Jock's shouts echoing in the studio. He muttered under his breath, "This ain't supposed to happen. Not like this." Another inmate sitting across from him chuckled darkly, "You on TV, right? Guess they finally caught you Kirk shot him a glare but said nothing. He knew talking tough wouldn't change anything. The truth was heavier than any words could carry. When morning came, the producers called an emergency meeting at the network office. Mona Scott sat at the head of the table, her eyes scanning the faces of nervous executives. "We have two options," she said, her voice sharp. "We either try to bury this and protect the brand, or we lean in and let the world eat it up." One executive shook his head. "This is bad press, Mona, real bad. If we tie ourselves to it, the backlash could kill us." But Mona leaned forward, a faint smirk tugging at her lips. "Backlash is still attention. Do you realize the numbers this scandal will bring in? They want to see the Frost Empire crumble, and we're the only ones who can deliver it to them." The room went silent. Everyone knew Mona was right. The scandal was already out of their control. Better to own it than to hide. Back at the Frost household, Rashida's phone finally buzzed with a name she couldn't ignore. Kirk's lawyer. She answered with shaky hands. "Please tell me what's happening," she whispered. The lawyer's voice was calm but grave. "He's being held on allegations of fraud and tax evasion. The feds have been building a case for months, and they chose last night to make their move." Rashida's stomach dropped. "Fraud? Tax evasion? Are you serious?" "He never told me." Her voice broke before she could finish. The lawyer sighed. "He didn't tell anyone. They say money from the businesses wasn't adding up. It looks bad, Rashida, really bad." She hung up the phone without another word, her heart pounding as the weight of betrayal settled on her chest. Word spread quickly to the rest of the cast. Jock was the first to blow up, pacing his living room with his phone glued to his ear. "Fraud, man, come on. Y'all really trying to say Kirk Frost was cooking the books? This the same dude who can barely balance a damn checkbook. His voice cracked with frustration, but deep down he feared the rumors might be true. Carly, on the other hand, wasted no time. She went live again, sipping a glass of wine as she said to her followers, "Didn't I tell y'all? When the smoke shows, there's always fire. And baby, this fire been burning for a long time." The comments exploded, fans calling her messy, but she thrived in the spotlight, unbothered by the hate. Jasmine, however, wasn't as calm. She sat in her apartment staring at her phone, scrolling through endless posts, dragging her name into the mess. Fans insisted she knew something, some even accusing her of being involved. Her hands shook as she typed out a post, denying everything. "I had nothing to do with what happened last night. Stop spreading lies about me." But within minutes, the comments tore her apart. "Sure, Jan, girl, we saw your face on set. You knew? Expose him if you got the receipts." She threw the phone across the couch, burying her face in her hands. No matter what she said, the internet had already made up its mind. The next day, Rashida surprised everyone by showing up at the studio. Makeup flawless, outfit sharp, but her expression icy cold. Cast members gathered, whispering nervously as she walked in. Jock was the first to approach her. "You holding up, sis?" he asked gently. She fixed him with a hard stare. "I'm not here to talk about how I'm holding up. I'm here to find out who put my family's business on display." Her eyes scanned the room, landing on Carly, then Jasmine. The tension was unbearable. Yandi tried to step in, raising her hands. "Now wait," but Rashida cut her off. "No, don't tell me to wait. Somebody in this room knew. Somebody tipped them off. And I swear on everything I love, I will find out who it was." Jasmine's voice trembled as she spoke. "I didn't call nobody. I didn't tell nobody. I don't know anything about no fraud." But Rashida stepped closer, her eyes locked on her rival. "You always had a motive, Jasmine. Don't think I forgot the games you played. And if I find out you had a hand in this, it's over for you." The crew rushed to step between them, but the damage was done. The cast was divided, suspicion poisoning every relationship in the room. Meanwhile, Kirk sat in a small interrogation room, staring at a pile of paperwork the agents had thrown on the table. Bank statements, contracts, transactions, each one pointing toward him. One agent leaned forward, his voice cold. "You think this is a game, Mr. Frost? Millions of dollars missing, accounts tied to your name, and you expect us to believe you had no idea?" Kirk slammed his fists on the table, shouting, "I didn't steal nothing. I built those businesses from the ground up. Y'all trying to paint me like some criminal?" But the agent smirked, sliding another document across the table. "Then explain this. A payment to Jasmine Washington's account. Large sums. Repeatedly. Care to tell us what that's about?" Kirk froze, his heart pounding in his chest. That revelation hit harder than the handcuffs. Not only was his freedom at risk, but now the truth about his entanglement with Jasmine was being laid bare by federal investigators. And if the world found out, Rashida's heartbreak would turn into a war. The interrogation room smelled of stale coffee and steel, the kind of air that made breathing itself feel heavy. Kirk sat hunched forward, sweat sliding down his temple as the papers spread before him told a story he didn't want to admit. The agent across from him tapped the folder with one finger, slow and deliberate, his eyes never leaving Kirk's face. "See, Mr. Frost, money don't lie. And when large deposits show up in someone else's account, especially a woman tied to your name, it raises eyebrows." He paused, letting the silence stretch. "You gonna tell me this was a gift? A business loan? Or should I assume it's hush money?" Kirk's jaw tightened, his voice low and cracked. "That ain't what it looks like. Y'all twisting this." But the agent only leaned back, smirking. "Then explain it. Convince me." Kirk opened his mouth, then shut it again, the words choking in his throat. Every excuse he thought of sounded like a confession in disguise. The truth was that money had gone to Jasmine, but the reasons, the late-night calls, the secret arrangements, the desperate attempts to keep her quiet were things he couldn't say without unraveling every thread of his life. Back at the studio, Rashida paced the green room like a lioness in a cage. Cast members kept their distance, watching her with equal parts sympathy and fear. Jock finally broke the silence. "Rash, you gotta slow down. This ain't healthy." She stopped, turned to him, and snapped, "Don't tell me what's healthy. What's not healthy is my husband being dragged out in handcuffs while the whole world laughs at me." Her voice trembled, but her eyes blazed. "Somebody in this circle knew. And I swear, if I find out who, I'll burn this whole damn set to the ground." Carly, sitting in the corner with her phone in hand, raised her brows. "Girl, you barking up the wrong tree. Don't look at me." I didn't need to call nobody. The truth walks in by itself. The smirk in her tone made Rashida's blood boil. She stepped forward, her heels clicking against the tile. Keep talking, Carly. I dare you. For a moment it seemed fists might fly, but Bambi and Yandi jumped in, pulling Rashida back before chaos exploded again. Fans watching leaked backstage clips would later post. Rashida was ready to swing. You could feel the rage in the room. Meanwhile, Jasmine sat quietly, avoiding everyone's eyes, but her silence was louder than any words. Bambi noticed and confronted her. Why you so quiet? You always got something slick to say, but now you mute. What you hiding? Jasmine snapped her head up, her voice sharp. I ain't hiding nothing. Y'all always trying to make me the villain. If Kirk messed up, that's on him, not me. The words cut through the room, but even as she said them, her hands shook. Rashida caught it, narrowing her eyes, suspicion hardening into certainty. By afternoon, the news cycle shifted from speculation to details. Reports broke that investigators had tied Kirk to financial discrepancies linked to his businesses. But the real bombshell came when Jasmine's name surfaced in leaked documents. Headlines read, "Payments to X revealed in Frost case and Jasmine Washington connected to Kirk's alleged fraud." The internet exploded. Fans were ruthless, dragging Jasmine on every platform. One tweet read, "So all that time she played victim, she was cashing checks." Another said, "Rashida deserves a crown for surviving this circus." At home, Rashida's phone blew up again, this time with a flood of screenshots. Friends, fans, even strangers sent her receipts of the articles. She scrolled, her face pale but her jaw clenched. Finally, she slammed the phone down and whispered, "He gave her money. After everything, he still gave her money." Her mother tried to calm her. "Baby, don't jump to conclusions," but Rashida cut her off, her voice sharp as a blade. "Mama, there ain't no conclusion left to jump to. He betrayed me again. This time, it ain't rumors. It's written in black and white." In his cell, Kirk finally broke his silence. Leaning across the table, his eyes bloodshot, he muttered, "I gave her that money to keep her quiet. It wasn't fraud. It was survival. I couldn't let it blow up again. Not with the cameras. Not with Rashida." The agent tilted his head. "So you admit it. You paid her off to cover up an affair." Kirk's shoulders slumped, defeat washing over him. "I ain't saying that. I'm just saying, I did what I thought I had to do." The agent scribbled notes, his smirk widening. "That's all I needed to hear." News of his confession didn't take long to leak. A crew member whispered to a blogger, who blasted it online within hours. By nightfall, fans were quoting Kirk's words as if they had heard them themselves. "I gave her that money to keep her quiet." Rashida read it on her phone, her vision blurring with tears. "He said it himself," she whispered, her voice hollow. "He said it." The strength she had carried all day cracked, and she collapsed into a chair, sobbing uncontrollably. Cameras caught it, of course, and fans online debated whether her pain was too real for TV or exactly what kept them watching. At the studio, Mona watched the ratings spike in real time as clips of Rashida's breakdown and Kirk's alleged confession flooded every corner of the internet. "We're pulling record numbers," she whispered to an assistant, her voice trembling with both awe and guilt. "This scandal's about to change reality TV forever." And yet, inside the Frost household, none of that mattered. Rashida stared into the mirror, her reflection fractured, whispering to herself, "It's over. I don't care what he says, what excuse he makes, it's over." The stage was set for the next eruption, Rashida confronting Kirk face to face. Not as his wife, but as a woman betrayed one too many times. When dawn broke after Kirk's first night in the holding cell, the city of Atlanta felt like it was holding its breath. The tabloids hit the stands before the sun was even up, plastering Kirk's mugshot in bold, grainy print. On the morning radio, every station was buzzing about the arrest. Some hosts laughed, dragging his name through the dirt, while others spoke in hushed tones about how humiliating it must have been for Rashida. Callers flooded the lines, debating whether Kirk was guilty, if Jasmine was involved, or if Mona Scott had somehow orchestrated the whole thing for ratings. It was the kind of scandal that didn't just shake the love and hip-hop world, it swallowed the entire city. Inside her quiet house, Rashida stared blankly at her phone. Messages poured in from producers, lawyers, friends, even complete strangers offering their support. None of it mattered. All she could hear in her mind was that one leaked line, "I gave her that money to keep her quiet." The betrayal stung deeper than any public humiliation ever could. She thought about the years she had spent defending him, forgiving him, patching up wounds he left behind. And for what? To discover in front of the world that he had still been secretly feeding Jasmine. The very woman who had almost destroyed their marriage once before. Her mother sat across from her, sipping coffee in silence. Finally, she spoke. You got a decision to make, baby girl. You gonna stand by him again? Or you gonna save yourself this time? Rashida's jaw tightened, her hands trembling on the table. I can't answer that yet, not until I see him face to face. Her voice was soft, but it carried a quiet fury that said she wasn't going to let Kirk talk his way out of this so easily. At the same time, Jasmine's apartment had turned into a battlefield of its own. She hadn't slept a wink. Her phone was blowing up with notifications, mentions, DMZ, and threats flooding every platform. Fans were ruthless, accusing her of destroying the Frost family once again. She tried to defend herself online, typing frantically, I didn't ask him for that money. He sent it on his own. Y'all don't know the truth. But every time she posted, the comments drowned her in hate. Girl, stop playing victim. You've been eating off that man's back for years. We saw the receipts. Jasmine. She threw the phone down, her hands shaking, whispering to herself, they don't understand. They'll never understand. But a part of her knew this was bigger than anything she could control. She remembered the late-night phone calls with Kirk, the whispered promises that no one would ever find out, and now, it was all spilling into the light, piece by piece. Back at the network offices, Mona Scott was running damage control, or at least pretending to. We're going to keep the cameras rolling, she told the staff firmly. This isn't just a show anymore. This is history. The fans don't want scripted drama, they want the truth. And whether it destroys him or not, Kirk's truth is the hottest storyline we've ever had. Some of her team looked uneasy, but no one dared challenge her. They all knew the ratings were skyrocketing, breaking records they had never dreamed of. The scandal was out of their hands anyway, better to shape it into a narrative than let the internet write it all by itself. Meanwhile, in his cell, Kirk was restless. He had spent the night pacing like a caged animal, replaying everything in his head. The arrest, the shouts, Rashida's tears, Jasmine's stare. The weight of the truth pressed on his chest like a stone. When his lawyer finally appeared that morning, Kirk's voice cracked as he asked, She's seen it. She's seen the papers. The lawyer nodded grimly. It's everywhere, Kirk. The whole world's talking. You can't hide this anymore. Kirk sank onto the bench, his head in his hands. I didn't mean for it to get this far. I thought I was protecting her. The lawyer frowned. Protecting who? Rashida, or Jasmine? The question cut deep, sharper than Kirk was prepared for. He didn't answer. He couldn't. By noon, he was released on bail. The moment he stepped out of the courthouse, the flash of cameras blinded him. Reporters swarmed, shouting questions, microphones shoved in his face. Kirk, did you commit fraud? Was the money for Jasmine hush payments? Rashida, are you standing by your man? Rashida wasn't by his side though. She had refused to appear, leaving Kirk to stumble through the chaos alone. He held his head low, mumbling, no comment, as his lawyer shoved him into a waiting car. But the image of him looking broken, beaten down by scandal, spread like wildfire across every news outlet in minutes. At home, Rashida waited. The moment Kirk walked through the door, she was ready. Her arms were crossed, her face icy, her voice steady. So it's true. He froze, his chest tightening. Baby, listen, but she cut him off, her tone sharper than a blade. Don't baby me. Don't you dare. After everything, after all the lies, after me defending you year after year, you still went behind my back and sent her money. Her voice cracked, tears spilling down her face, but her fury never wavered. Do you know what you did to me? To our family? Kirk stepped forward, his hands outstretched, desperate. It wasn't like that. I wasn't trying to hurt you. I was scared. I didn't want it to blow up again. Rashida shook her head, her laugh bitter and hollow. Scared? You weren't scared when you wrote those checks. You weren't scared when you kept it from me. You were only scared when you got caught. Her words cut him to pieces. He reached for her, but she pulled away, her voice trembling with rage. You made me a fool in front of the world, and I don't know if I can ever forgive that. The confrontation was raw, loud enough for their neighbors to hear through the walls. And when the cameras caught Rashida storming out of the house, slamming the door so hard the frame shook, fans knew the Frost marriage was dangling by a single thread. Meanwhile, the rest of the cast gathered at a lounge downtown, sipping drinks and trading whispers about the scandal. Jock shook his head, muttering, Man, Kirk always been messy, but this on another level. Bambi frowned. Rashida don't deserve this. She held that man down for years, and now this. Yandi sighed, sipping her wine. The crazy part is, this ain't just about their marriage anymore. The feds don't play. If he really did what they saying, he could be gone for years. Carly, ever the instigator, smirked and leaned in. Well, if he do time, maybe Rashida finally free. She'd been carrying his dead weight for too long anyway. Jock shot her a glare. You messy as hell, Carly. Always been. But Carly only laughed, sipping her drink. I ain't messy. I'm real. And the real truth is, Kirk wrote his own downfall. As the night deepened, the city buzzed louder than ever. Fans online debated endlessly, dividing into camps #team, RASHEEDA, #FreeKirk, #ExposeJasmine. Theories flew, memes multiplied, and every new detail sent shockwaves across the internet. For Rashida though, none of that mattered. As she sat alone in her car, staring at the city lights through a blur of tears, she whispered to herself, "It's over. This time, it's really over." But deep inside, she knew one thing. This wasn't the end of the Frost saga. It was only the beginning of a war that would tear families, friendships, and the entire love and hip-hop cast apart. The days following Kirk's release were like walking through fire for Rashida. Everywhere she turned, her life was plastered across headlines and trending hats. Paparazzi swarmed outside her boutique. Fans snapped photos when she stepped out for groceries, and customers whispered in corners of her store, pretending to shop but really just watching her face for cracks. She forced herself to smile, to stand tall, but inside she felt like glass ready to shatter. At home, things were worse. Every room felt haunted by Kirk's presence. The living room where he once promised her the world now echoed with silence. The kitchen where they used to sit and plan their businesses now seemed like a courtroom. Every corner a reminder of lies uncovered. Rashida's phone buzzed nonstop with texts from producers urging her to film, but she ignored most of them. She wasn't ready to perform for cameras, not when her real life was already a stage of betrayal. Kirk, on the other hand, couldn't stay quiet. He called over and over, his voice leaving desperate voicemails. Rash, please, pick up, let me explain. I never meant to hurt you. I swear, I was just trying to protect us. But the more he begged, the less she wanted to hear. In her mind, there was nothing left to explain. The papers spoke louder than his words ever could. Then came the ambush. Jasmine was spotted leaving a cafe downtown, sunglasses pulled low, hood up. She thought she could slip out unnoticed, but fans were waiting. Cameras shoved in her face, voices shouting, "You ruined their marriage. Did you take the money? Jasmine, say something." She tried to push through, but someone caught it all on video. Jasmine snapping back. "Y'all don't know what really happened. Don't come at me like I'm the villain." The clip went viral instantly, painting her not as a victim but as a woman defensive and guilty. The backlash doubled. Within hours, #CancelJasmine trended, with fans demanding she be removed from the show. Meanwhile, Jock and Bambi met up with Yandi at a small lounge to discuss the fallout. Jock slammed his glass on the table. "Man, this whole thing got the city on fire. Everywhere I go, people asking me about Kirk. I can't even buy gas without somebody yelling, 'Free Frost.'" Bambi sighed, shaking her head. "This ain't just about him anymore. The whole cast getting dragged into it. People acting like we all part of the scheme." Yandi leaned forward, lowering her voice. "You know what scares me? If the feds dig deeper, if they think Kirk was laundering money, they gon' start looking at everybody he worked with, businesses, deals, appearances. None of us safe." That thought hung heavy over the table. If Kirk went down for fraud, who else might get pulled into the storm? Back at home, Rashida sat with her mother and her closest friend. Papers were spread across the table, bank statements, contracts, legal documents her lawyer had sent over. The reality was clear. Divorce wasn't just an option anymore. It was the only way out. Her friend whispered, "Girl, you deserve peace. You've been carrying him for too long." Her mother added softly, "Sometimes, loving yourself means walking away." Rashida's eyes filled with tears, but her voice was steady when she said, "I'm filing. Enough is enough." When the news broke that Rashida was preparing to divorce Kirk, the internet exploded again. Some fans cheered, calling her a queen for finally standing up for herself. Others begged her to reconsider, pleading for forgiveness and reconciliation. But the louder voices were the ones saying, "It's about time." Memes flooded timelines, pictures of Rashida walking away from explosions, captions like "Sis choosing peace." For once, the fans weren't divided. They wanted Rashida free. Kirk, however, wasn't ready to let go. He showed up at her boutique, unannounced, cameras catching the moment. He stood outside, pleading through the glass, shouting, "Rash, don't do this. Don't throw everything away over one mistake." Customers gasped, pulling out their phones as Rashida stormed to the door. She opened it just enough to shout back, "One mistake. Kirk, it's been years of mistakes. I'm done. Her voice carried through the parking lot, raw and final. Security pushed him back as she slammed the door, leaving him standing there in tears while fans recorded every second. The footage hit the internet before the hour was over. Comment sections lit up with debates. Was Kirk a broken man desperate to save his marriage, or just another manipulator trying to control the narrative? Either way, the world had made its decision. Rashida was the hero, Kirk the villain, and Jasmine the accomplice. At the network, Mona knew this was gold, but it came with fire. Executives argued about whether the show was spiraling out of control. One even said, if this gets any darker, we could lose sponsors. Mona pushed back, reminding them of the ratings. This is reality. This is what people are tuning in for. We can't cut it now, we'd be crazy. But even Mona, hardened by years of producing chaos, felt a pang of guilt. The Frost marriage had always been a staple of the show, but now it was crumbling for real, and she was the one with the cameras rolling. As the days passed, Kirk's empire truly began to collapse. Business partners pulled out of deals. Stores tied to his name saw protests outside their doors. One headline read, "From music mogul to mugshot, the fall of Kirk Frost." Paparazzi caught him stumbling out of clubs late at night, looking disheveled, his once confident swagger replaced by shame. His reputation was gone, his marriage hanging by a thread, and the walls were closing in. Rashida, however, grew stronger with each passing day. She filmed a confessional for the show, her voice calm but resolute. "I've given Kirk chance after chance, but this time, I have to choose me. I have to choose my peace, my kids, my future. He may not see it now, but sometimes, love isn't enough." Fans flooded her with support, hailing her as the face of strength, the woman who walked away when enough was enough. And yet, beneath her strength, a storm still brewed. Because Rashida knew this wasn't over, the feds were still digging, Jasmine was still whispering, and Kirk, broken as he looked, wasn't done fighting for her. The stage was set for the next chapter, a reunion where all three would be forced into the same room. The cameras rolling, the crowd watching, and the truth waiting to explode. The reunion taping was unlike any the franchise had ever seen. Normally, reunion nights carried a buzz of rehearsed shade and simmering grudges. But this one felt heavier, like everyone had been summoned to witness a public execution. The stage was set in deep red and black, the lighting low and dramatic, casting shadows that stretched across the audience. Fans filled the seats, their whispers like an electric current sparking through the air. The tension was unbearable. Every single person in that room knew this wasn't just another staged brawl or carefully planted rumor. This was real. Kirk's arrest, Rashida's heartbreak, and Jasmine's humiliation had shattered the thin line between show and reality. When the cameras started rolling, the host's voice cut through the silence. "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Love and Hip Hop Atlanta Reunion Special. Tonight, we address the scandal that shook the world." The audience erupted in cheers, some clapping wildly, others booing before a word had been said. The host's smile was strained. He knew he was standing in the middle of a storm that could swallow him too. Rashida was the first to walk out, her head held high, her outfit flawless, but her eyes carried the weight of war. The crowd stood, half cheering, half weeping for her. She waved briefly, then sat, her posture straight, her jaw locked. Next came Jasmine, who stepped out to a chorus of boos. She tried to smile, but it faltered, and she pulled her hood tighter as if it could shield her from the hate. The host raised his voice. "Ladies, please let's allow everyone to speak tonight." But the audience had already chosen sides. Finally, Kirk entered. The boos were deafening, drowning out the scattered claps from a handful of die-hard defenders. His face was pale, his shoulders hunched, a man stripped of pride. He walked slowly to his seat, eyes darting to Rashida, who refused to look at him. The silence between them was louder than any argument. The host wasted no time. "Kirk, the world watched you being arrested. The world saw the papers linking you to fraud, tax evasion, and payments to Jasmine. What do you have to say for yourself?" Kirk swallowed hard, his voice trembling. "First of all, I'm not guilty. I didn't commit fraud. I may have made mistakes, but I'm not the criminal they painting me to be." The crowd booed again, someone shouting, "Liar." Rashida finally turned her head, her voice cutting like a blade. "Not guilty. Kirk, you said it yourself. You gave her money to keep her quiet. That's not the law coming for you, that's your own lies catching up." The audience erupted, fans on their feet chanting Rashida's name. Jasmine leaned forward, her voice sharp. "Don't put this all on me. I didn't ask for that money. Kirk sent it on his own. Y'all painting me as the villain, but I didn't force his hand." Rashida's eyes snapped toward her, rage flooding her face. You took it though, didn't you? You cashed every damn check. You had no problem watching my family fall apart while you lined your pockets. Jasmine's voice cracked as she shouted back, I had to survive. You don't know what it's like being dragged through the mud every season while he pretends like I don't exist. The host tried to step in, but the shouting drowned him out. Yandi leaned across her seat, pointing at Jasmine. You survived. Please. Rashida been surviving while raising kids and holding down businesses. Don't play victim when you've been sipping off the Frost Empire. Jock jumped up, his voice booming. Man, let's cut the bull. Kirk been lying to both of them, straight up. You can't play two sides forever without the house crashing down. And now it crashed. The audience roared, some cheering Jock, others demanding Kirk confess. The host raised his hands, pleading for calm. Let's take a breath. Kirk, what do you say to Rashida? Right here, right now, with the world watching. Kirk turned to her, his eyes glossy with tears. Rash, I know I hurt you. I know I betrayed you. But everything I did, I swear it was because I didn't want to lose you. I thought if I kept the drama quiet, if I handled it myself, we could keep moving. I was wrong. I was dead wrong. Rashida's tears spilled, but her face stayed hard. You didn't just betray me, Kirk. You betrayed our kids. You betrayed every promise you ever made. And you did it while the cameras rolled, while the whole damn world watched. She shook her head, her voice breaking. I'm done. The words hit like a bomb. The audience gasped, some screaming, some crying. Kirk covered his face, his body shaking with sobs. Jasmine sat back, arms folded, muttering, guess that's what happens when the truth comes out. The crowd booed her again, louder than ever, their anger turning vicious. Security stepped closer as fans shouted insults from the front row. And then, just when the chaos seemed unbearable, the host dropped another bombshell. We've received exclusive footage tonight that hasn't been seen by the public yet. Footage that might explain why the authorities moved in when they did. The screen behind them lit up, showing grainy video of Kirk meeting with a man in a parking lot, exchanging envelopes. Gasps filled the room. Rashida's hands flew to her mouth. Jock jumped up, shouting, what the hell is this? Jasmine froze, her face pale, whispering, oh my god. The footage ended, the lights came back, and all eyes turned to Kirk. His face was ashen, his voice barely audible. That ain't what it looks like. But no one believed him. The audience booed louder than ever, security struggling to contain the frenzy. Rashida stood up, her voice ringing above the noise. I don't need no judge to tell me what you are, Kirk. I see it with my own eyes. And I'm not standing by you another second. She stormed off stage, the crowd erupting in cheers and applause. Kirk sat frozen, his empire crumbling, his marriage gone, his reputation destroyed. The reunion had turned into a funeral for his legacy, and the cameras captured every moment. But the night wasn't over. Because backstage, Rashida's walkout sparked a new storm. Producers swarmed her, begging her to come back. Cast members rushed to console her. And Jasmine, still sitting on stage, smirked through the tears, whispering to herself, guess I ain't the only one who lost tonight. The cliffhanger was set. The reunion would go down in history, not for staged fights or scripted shade, but for the raw, unfiltered destruction of one of love and hip-hop's most infamous couples. What you just witnessed is one of the most explosive moments in the history of love and hip-hop, Atlanta. And honestly, the fallout is only just beginning. Kirk Frost's arrest didn't just stop the cameras for a few minutes, it stopped the entire world. Fans are still trying to wrap their heads around the chaos, Rashida's tears, Jasmine's denials, and the shocking evidence that played out in front of millions. The Frost Empire, once built on loyalty, business, and family, now sits in ruins. And the internet has turned into the courtroom, where every fan gets to be the judge. Think about everything that went down. Kirk being dragged away in handcuffs, Rashida breaking down in front of cameras, Jasmine caught in the middle while the entire cast pointed fingers. It's the kind of drama that shakes reality television to its core. For years, people tuned in for shade, fights, and scandals. But no one expected to see the law step in and pull a man's entire life apart, live on set. And the craziest part, we still don't know the full truth. Was Kirk guilty of fraud? Or was he the victim of a bigger setup? Did Jasmine really know more than she admitted? Or was she just caught in the crossfire of Kirk's mistakes? And how much longer can Rashida hold herself together before she finally walks away for good? These are the questions fans are asking. And these are the questions that will keep this story alive long after the cameras stop rolling. But here's where you come in. Love and hip-hop has always been about the fans, your voices, your opinions, your reactions. The streets are already buzzing, Social media is on fire, and hashtags are flying in every direction. Some people are screaming "Free Kirk," while others are chanting "Rashida deserves better." And then there are the ones dragging Jasmine to the point of no return, demanding she finally tell the whole truth. This isn't just a TV show anymore, it's a movement. And every single one of you watching has the power to shape what happens next. So, I want to hear from you. Do you believe Kirk when he says this is all a setup? Or do you think the evidence proves he's been lying all along? Should Rashida stay by his side and fight with him, or should she finally close this chapter and walk away for good? And what about Jasmine? Was she just another pawn in Kirk's game? Or was she quietly pulling strings behind the scenes? The comments section is your courtroom, and your words are the verdict. Drop your thoughts below and let the world know where you stand. And while you're at it, don't just watch the drama, be part of it. Hit that like button if you think Rashida deserves better. Smash the subscribe button so you never miss a single update. Because trust me, this story is far from over. Every day brings a new twist, a new leak, a new betrayal, and you'll want to be the first to know when the next bomb drops. And of course, turn on those notifications so you're not the last one to find out what's happening. The Frost family has been at the center of love and hip-hop drama for years. But this scandal has taken things to a level nobody saw coming. Fans are shocked, emotions are high, and the family is divided in ways that may never be repaired. But whether you love them or hate them, one thing is certain, this is the kind of reality TV moment that will be remembered forever. So, what's next? Will Kirk clear his name or watch his empire crumble piece by piece? Will Rashida walk away stronger, finally free of years of betrayal? Will Jasmine reveal secrets that change the story all over again? The cameras are still rolling, the world is still watching, and the story is still being written. Your voice matters, your opinions matter, and the only way to make sure you don't miss a second is to stay locked in right here. Go ahead, comment, share, like and subscribe. Because in this world, the drama doesn't end when the cameras stop, it ends when you stop watching. And something tells me, nobody is ready to look away.